This program on investing under regulation crowdfunding is not investment advice.
Rising with the crowd, power unbound, change makers lead where hope is found. Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Supercross stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Welcome to the Superpowers for Good show from the Super Crowd, folks. Have you ever wanted to raise capital from the crowd, but were afraid you couldn't do it? Today's guest is one of the world experts on raising capital from the crowd. Alex Fisher is the CEO of Netcapital, a registered broker-dealer that helps people raise capital from the crowd using Reg D, Reg A, Reg CF, the whole smorgasbord of private offerings. You don't want to miss this, so stick around. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hi, Devin. Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here today.
Well, we're thrilled to have you, and thank you very much for making time for us. I'm excited that you're going to be speaking at Super Crowd LA coming up in just about a month, a little under a month. May 1st through 3rd in Santa Monica. Thanks for making the trip. I really appreciate it. But I think this is going to be a great event, and your participation makes it better. Give us a little teaser of some of the insights you might share at Super Crowd LA.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super psyched to be at Super Crowd LA. My colleague Eric Cox is also going to be there as well, and just really the great and awesome group of intermediaries, issuers, and investors in the crowdfunding space. Something that I'm really excited to talk about, because I think when people hear crowdfunding, they kind of lump all of the different offering types and all of the different ways to raise capital together. But something I'm really excited to talk about is, the purpose of why Netcapital specifically decided to create Netcapital Securities, a registered broker-dealer that is capable of supporting Reg A and Reg D offerings. Reg CF offerings will continue to be handled by the funding portal, but really just have a really good discussion with all of the people there about what do the different offering types mean, and how do you know which one is the right fit for you based on where you're at with your business and a number of other circumstances. And then something else I'm really excited to talk about with this group as well is liquidity in the crowdfunding space, because so much of the focus on crowdfunding is in that primary market offering, right? How do companies get capital from the crowd to go out to build their business, to expand their business? But I think there's less focus on, at least today, well, what is and what are the liquidity opportunities for investors who invest in crowdfunding deals, and what do those options mean for both issuers and investors over time? So those are a couple of things I'm excited about, but I'm sure there will be a number of other really interesting topics we'll cover as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great event, and I really am excited about the insights that you'll bring, Alex. You've got such a unique and valuable perspective. I think it's great. And folks, the reality is most of the crowdfunding portals that you're familiar with operate with a fairly constrained business model. It's a great business model. I love it. Netcapital operates a portal still, but the flexibility that Alex has created at Netcapital by registering as a broker-dealer allows them to do so much more. Alex, let's dig into that a little bit, because this is important. When you do a Reg CF offering and a Reg D offering at the same time, that sounds confusing and complicated, but that can work really well, can't it?
Yeah, it absolutely can. And when you think of the reasons why a company might consider doing that, is generally companies will either utilize Reg CF or Reg D for different purposes. So for those listening who might not understand what these terms mean, Reg CF basically means that companies can raise capital from the general public. They can raise up to $5 million in a 12-month period. On the Reg D side of the house, that number can theoretically go up exponentially. There's no cap on the amount of capital that a company can raise. However, those companies are generally limited to only raising capital from accredited investors. And at the high level, that's either very wealthy individuals or institutional asset managers and other intermediaries. And so companies who look to utilize both offering types at the same time are being very strategic about using the Reg CF bucket to open the investment opportunity to their broad network. So that could be their customers. If they're very big on social media, that can be followers. For a lot of companies who already have either some operating history or have established a wait list, making that investment opportunity available to people who have been supportive of the company and are interested in supporting it from not only an investor perspective, but also a customer perspective. Whereas on the Reg D side, companies are more focused on bringing in what you might hear referred to as sophisticated capital. So they might be looking for larger investments from individual angel investors or from a VC fund or from an individual VC. And the primary difference generally from the investor's perspective is what they're looking to get when they make that investment decision. So on the Reg CF side, it generally comes with very little control in terms of how the business is run day to day. It allows for a number of investors to come in and become shareholders in the company. Whereas when you have Reg D investments, that investor might want a board seat. They might want rights of first refusal in future offerings. And so there are a lot of things to consider, and there can be pros and cons of each, but there's certainly scenarios where combining the two can make sense for certain companies.
It is exciting. And my favorite way to see these combined, and folks, as you're thinking about, I want you to think about your business and how your business might be able to utilize more capital and which might be the most strategic way for you to take advantage of Alex's expertise. But as I think about it, I love as an investor, as a small investor, admittedly, to see that I have an opportunity to invest in a Reg CF deal on exactly the same terms that the Reg D investors are getting when they put in more money. It's tantalizing because it means smart people with more money, more experience, are accepting the risks, the profile, the deal structure. Do you see people doing that very often at Netcapital, where they make the same terms available to both groups?
Yeah, we've certainly had side-by-side offerings, and we also have investors, accredited investors, invest directly into Reg CF deals without separately requesting or requiring that a distinct Reg D bucket be established. But I think you make a really good point, Devin, because sometimes in the crowdfunding industry, when just the general public comes into a deal, the institutional side view those investors as Main Street investors as opposed to Wall Street investors. And the Wall Street investors' opinions and analyses of companies tends to carry more weight. And so when those more sophisticated entities do come into these deals, it certainly carries a lot of credibility to the broader investing public by saying, oh, I recognize the name of this VC or this investment fund. They've decided to commit X dollars to this deal. That makes me feel a little bit more comfortable about proceeding with my investment decision. And obviously, at the end of the day, that decision resides with each individual investor. But I think the beauty of crowdfunding deals is it enables a forum whereby investors can discuss with one another and with the companies themselves the opportunity, ask questions, and have them answered in real time. And you eliminate a lot of the traditional back and forth where on the company side, founders would have to carve out a lot of distinct time to go out and pitch and create individualized narratives and conversations based on who they might be pitching to. Whereas on the crowdfunding side, that pitch is happening, 24/7. And it's really a matter of who's getting eyes on that deal at what time, and then being responsive to the inquiries that come in and understanding how to respond to a retail investor versus an institutional investor.
That is so cool. This world of capital raising just blossoms when you work with a broker dealer like yourself, right? Like Netcapital Securities, that can use the whole range of offerings to build what's exactly right for a particular company, for a particular issuer. And a cookie cutter approach just isn't the right one, is it?
No, definitely not. It's very facts and circumstances based. You want to understand, the stage of the company, the industry that they're in, the existing network and networks that they're a part of, as well as a number of other considerations. And something else that I'm really excited about having the broker dealer is under Reg CF, companies are limited by regulation to only listing on one funding portal at a time. And so that inherently limits the number of eyeballs that might end up on that offering, right? Because there are certain investors who might say, Netcapital is my preferred platform of choice. I'm a Netcapital investor. And then that's the same case for investors who frequent other crowdfunding platforms. However, that restriction does not exist in Regulation A or Regulation D and doesn't apply to broker dealers. So there's this new opportunity for companies to raise capital under Reg A or Reg D on multiple platforms at once. And so I'm really excited to head to SuperCrowd LA and speak to representatives at the other platform to see if there's an ability for us to work more collaboratively to get, companies more exposure to various investor bases, and also to get investors excited about really understanding the full universe and how big this space truly is, because they might just not be aware of, all of the investment opportunities that are available to them. So there's a big educational component as well that I'm really excited to focus more on.
Folks, I want to point out that what she was just talking about, what Alex was saying, is vitally important. This is an exciting innovation, right? This idea of, I think you call it a syndication, right, Alex?
Exactly
when you
right.
bring in other broker dealers to help with the capital raise, it gives you access to their community, their investors, and allows you to get a deal done bigger, faster, stronger. That's exciting stuff. Wow. I love it. Well, listen, Alex, we got to take a quick break here.
Sure.
Folks, I'm here today with Alex Fisher. She's the CEO of Netcapital Securities. They run a funding portal. They've got now a broker dealer set up so they can help people with Reg A and Reg D offerings. It's kind of the whole smorgasbord of capital raising tools for growing companies. We've had just a wonderful discussion. Stick around. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to Alex about her superpower. Don't miss this.
Download a free copy of How to Make Money with Impact Crowdfunding. The book Sarah Hanks describes as
a fantastic overview, not just of crowdfunding investing, but of investing in general.
Andrew Savickas raved,
"This book offers unparalleled insights for anyone looking to make a difference."
Scan the QR code to get your copy.
SuperCrowd LA is the premier conference for impact investors, social entrepreneurs, and community builders. Learn from experts who've raised millions, including leaders from Start Engine, Aptera, DNA, and WorldTree, plus a live pitch with top investment opportunities. Can't attend? Watch the live stream on E360 TV. Struggling to raise capital for your business? Unlock the power of the crowd with AI. My free guide, Crowdfunding Made Simple, walks you through every step to success. Get funded smarter, faster.
Scan the QR code now for your free download.
Welcome back, everyone. We are really fortunate today to have with us Alex Fisher. She is such a big deal. She's the CEO of Netcapital Securities, a registered broker-dealer, a very highly regulated business. I say that having run a broker-dealer myself in the past. It's a big deal. It's a big burden, but it means that she's created a trustworthy entity, a business that you can trust to do business with. She's just a rock star. We're thrilled that she's here today. We're going to shift gears to talk to her about, on a more personal level, about her superpower. So stick around. You don't want to miss this. Alex, you really are a rock star in this space, and I'm so grateful that you would make the time for us today. But as you think about all you've accomplished, all that you're doing, what is your superpower?
That is a great question, Devin. And honestly, I had never thought about that until you asked the question of me. And I'm glad that you did, because I had a really good introspection with myself thinking about how to respond. And what it made me think about was a comment and a compliment, actually, that I had received from someone who I really looked up to professionally a couple of years ago, who had, said to me that what she really appreciated about me was that I'm intellectually curious. And upon hearing that, I thought a lot about what that meant and spoke with her about it. And to me, that really means just thinking very deeply and critically about a number of things, not just in my professional life, but in my personal life as well, and not just accepting things for how they are, and constantly thinking about how to do things better, and why things are done a certain way and how they're done, constantly with this continuous view of improvement and betterment. And so I try to channel that into when I'm doing business with clients, thinking about not just their business plans or their fundraising goals, but thinking about who these individuals are as people, what inspired them to create the businesses that they're raising capital for. And I think taking that kind of broader and more personable approach results not only in good business relationships, but in really important personal relationships as well.
Folks, I suspect that you're like me. You're thinking as you listen to Alex, I want Alex on my team. Right. So Alex, as you think about your superpower, I wonder, would you be able to think of a time when you used your superpower to, in a specific instance, to relate kind of an anecdote or story that would help us understand it a little better?
Yeah, happy to. And I don't think it's just a single story, but just kind of a big shift that I've made in my life, mostly over the past 2 years. So when I was a kid, I loved to read. My mom would have to run out of the house in the middle of the day to go to the library to get more books, because I would just fly through them. And then as I got older and I ramped up my studies and my professional life, I totally let my love of reading and my passion for reading fall to the side, because I was so focused on developing what I perceived to be tangible knowledge and skills. And so for probably a period of about 5 to 7 years, I only allowed myself to read textbooks when I was doing my undergrad and graduate programs, licensing manuals when I was studying for all of my securities exams, and on a day-to-day basis, just reading through laws and regulations related to this space. But, a couple of years ago, I just felt like there was really something missing, and I got back into reading. And since early to mid 2022, I've read 70 books since then, just that I have a personal interest in. And it's made all of the difference. And I was so guilty for so long that if I wasn't doing something, directly to further my professional development, that I was, wasting my time essentially. But I've seen such a huge change just in, my perspective, how I think about things. And so it's been, just that drive to broaden my own horizon and interests has had a number of benefits in my personal life and professional life.
Folks, I bet a lot of you can relate to Alex's experience. I know I can a little bit, Alex. That personal development quest is something that really never ends. And so I appreciate your insights. That's great. Now, because all of us are trying to move in that direction, trying to become better, not only in our professional lives, but in our personal lives, we want to be better humans, I think. What tips could you offer us for gaining a little more Alex Fisherness?
Well, something that has been really important for me to focus on, because I am so results oriented and very competitive and very driven, is to not get discouraged if I'm spending my time doing something that doesn't have an immediate tangible impact, because I've gotten caught in these loopholes where I feel like if there's not an immediate reward, so to say, or value add, then something that I'm doing is not worthwhile, or it's a waste of my time. And I've learned, especially over the past couple of years, that that's absolutely not the case at all. Spending your time doing things that, really feels like it's important to you, you're passionate about, it's making you a better person, it's having a positive impact, that is time well spent. And so while I think it's in our human nature to constantly try to measure the value of what we're doing and how we're doing it, to not lose sight of the fact that, just doing these things and going through the motions for things that are important to us is valuable in and of itself.
Yeah, that's great. Now, let's bring this back full circle. How does this help you build the business? What are the impacts you're seeing in your business by taking this new approach?
Yeah, I think it really helps in facilitating conversations with companies who are in the process of building their business and getting ready for a fundraising process. I think if you were to just go through kind of a checklist with a company and, just reserve that to very straightforward yes or no questions, what industry are you in? What was your revenue last year? But fail to really get into the why and the purpose of their business, and understanding who they are as people, who the team is. Something that's very important to me is being someone who other people want to work with and enjoy working with. And it's such a time intensive and at times very frustrating process going through the capital raising journey. So if my clients and potential clients feel like, they're really going to have a partner in this process and, even a friend, then that's the approach that I want to take, because I think everyone needs support during the course of this outside of, just the traditional capital raising tools.
That's such a great perspective. And I think it's, folks, if I'm you, I want to have an ally like Alex who sees me as a whole person and not just as a business. It's so important. Alex, as we wrap up, give us a quick rundown on how people can connect with you, how they can learn more about Netcapital, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, they can see you at Supercrowd LA, May 1st through 3rd.
Yes. Please, if you're in the Southern California area or can make the journey, please come see us at Supercrowd LA. Otherwise, you can go to netcapital.com and you can check out the companies who are currently raising on our platform. We're industry agnostic, so depending on what your unique interests and investment preferences are, it really runs the gambit. So I encourage you to check it out. Otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn personally. I try to post, commenting my thoughts about what's going on in the fundraising landscape and the startup world. And that's also where I post other events that I'm going to be attending as well. So I definitely encourage the viewers to connect with me, to reach out, and hopefully see them in person in a few weeks at SuperCrowd LA.
Fantastic. Well, Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I think your perspective and the value you bring to SuperCrowd LA is amazing. We're grateful that you're going to be there. Thank you so much. I also want to encourage people to check out Netcapital. Golly, folks, having the power of a broker-dealer behind you is really a big boost compared to working with a portal. I love portals. I invest in portals all day, every day. But there's a huge advantage when you're raising capital, especially if you want to raise meaningful amounts of capital, to use a broker-dealer. I encourage you to check it out. We want to wish you every success, Alex. Thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Devin.
All righty. Now, let's do some good.